The moment you start explaining your worth to a man is the moment you lose it. Most women over 60 have learned this the hard way. The more you chase clarity from him, the more unclear he becomes. The more you try to secure his attention, the more it scatters. Today, I'll walk you through 4 ways to ignore him properly, so he doesn't forget you, he fights for you. I'm Vernon. I know for nurturing women, ignoring feels unnatural. You've been taught to talk, to fix, to close emotional gaps. But when misunderstood, it turns into passive aggression that pushes him away. When mastered, it awakens something primal, his drive, his respect, and his desire to prove he's worthy. This isn't about games. This is about preserving your dignity while triggering his deeper pursuit instinct. A man will always chase what feels just out of reach, but he'll take for granted what's always available. Tap like and subscribe to stay connected to weekly insights that help you protect your peace, reclaim your worth, and master your feminine power after 60 with strength, softness, and 0 apologies. So let's begin with the first shift, the kind that transforms the dynamic, not by changing him, but by changing how you carry your power. 1. Control your reaction, not his behavior. Why does it seem like the more you care, the more he disconnects? The answer often isn't in what you say, but how you react when he withdraws. One of my wife's dearest friends, Sarah, 58, sat across from me, tired, confused, and carrying a question she couldn't stop asking herself. Every time her partner pulled back, missed a call, seemed distant, canceled plans, she'd launch into explanations. Did I do something wrong? Are we okay? I just want to understand. She thought communication was the answer, but she was actually training him that his withdrawal would always get a reaction. What most women don't realize is that men aren't afraid of silence. They're afraid of a woman who doesn't react on demand. When you stay calm while he withdraws, you're sending a message that cuts deeper than any conversation. Your inconsistency no longer moves me. This is the most powerful form of ignoring, emotional detachment from his emotional patterns. When he goes quiet, you don't chase. When he's distant, you don't close the gap. When he's unclear, you don't seek clarification. You simply continue. I taught Sarah to practice what I call energetic withdrawal. Not cold silence, but warm indifference. She stopped asking where he went. She stopped explaining herself when he returned. She started responding to his energy with the same level he gave her. Nothing more, nothing less. I once read something from the philosopher Epictetus, one of the early Stoics, that stuck with me. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. And when I think about that in relationships, especially for women, I translate it like this: the woman who stops reacting to his inconsistency becomes the consistency he craves. Not because she's trying to teach him a lesson, but because she refuses to lose herself to someone else's emotional weather. The ecological effect was immediate. Within weeks, he was the one initiating conversations about their relationship. He was the one asking if everything was okay,
He was the one explaining himself, because suddenly her approval wasn't guaranteed. It had to be earned. This isn't about becoming cold or unavailable. It's about demonstrating that your emotional stability doesn't depend on his emotional availability. When you master this level of self-control, you become magnetically attractive because you represent something rare, a woman who cannot be destabilized by his uncertainty. The key is in your energy. Men can feel when you're waiting for their validation versus when you're genuinely content without it. That contentment, that's what creates the chase. So now that you've stopped feeding his ego with easy validation, what's next? It's time to stop reacting altogether and start radiating something that makes him realize he's not the center of your world anymore.
2. Don't feed his ego with tiny attention. Modern men don't need love to stay comfortable in mediocrity. Sometimes they just need a little validation hit. One text reply, one heart emoji, one compliment about how handsome he looks, and suddenly he's satisfied enough not to pursue anything deeper. I watched a brilliant woman unknowingly train a man to give her breadcrumbs. Every time he'd send a lazy good morning text, she'd respond with paragraphs. Every time he'd like her photo, she'd comment on his. Every time he'd give minimal effort, she'd reward it with maximum attention. She was feeding his ego on an intermittent schedule. And intermittent reinforcement is the most addictive behavioral pattern in psychology. The strategy here is strategic silence. Ignore the bait. When he gives breadcrumbs, you give space. When he offers minimum effort, you match it with minimum response. When he's testing if you're still emotionally available on his terms, you prove you're not. This doesn't mean being rude or hostile. It means being proportional. His hey gets your hi. His paragraph gets your paragraph. His consistent effort gets your consistent attention. But his sporadic, low-effort attempts to keep you on the hook, those get ignored entirely. As Stephen Chbosky once wrote, "We accept the love we think we deserve." And sometimes what we think we deserve shows up in how quickly we respond to crumbs instead of waiting for a real meal. Years ago, I told an old friend, "Stop being his dopamine hit." She was confused until I explained, every time you respond to his minimal effort with maximum enthusiasm, you're giving him the neurochemical reward without requiring him to work for it. He gets the satisfaction of knowing you're still there, still available, still interested, without having to prove he deserves it. The transformation happens when you stop feeding his ego and start feeding your own energy. Instead of analyzing his every text, you're investing in your own interests. Instead of being available for his convenience, you're busy with your own life. Instead of giving him constant confirmation of your interest, you're making him wonder if he still has it. Share this with a friend who needs to hear it, because too many incredible women are giving away their power in tiny, invisible ways. When you stop rewarding his minimal effort with maximum attention, something fascinating happens. He starts increasing his effort to get the same response. He starts pursuing because the easy validation is gone. He starts investing because his comfort zone of having you available without effort has been disrupted. Ignoring isn't just about withholding. It's about outgrowing. And in the next part, I'll show you exactly how to do that. 3. Outgrow him loudly but silently. The best revenge is not moving on, it's outgrowing. Carl Jung understood that true power comes not from retaliation, but from elevation. Most women, especially after heartbreak, make the mistake of centering the man who couldn't love them right. They send subtle updates, post with intention, over-explain their healing, all in hopes he'll finally see their worth. This is what I call luminous ignoring. You don't just ignore with silence, you ignore with elevation. You make your life too radiant to chase approval from someone who couldn't see your light when he had full access to it. The psychological impact of this strategy is profound. When you stop trying to convince him of your worth and start embodying it, you become undeniably attractive, not just to him, but to everyone around you. Men notice when you glow, especially when they're not the reason for it. Maria's ex-husband started noticing her social media differently. Her confidence in photos, her adventures, her obvious contentment without him. He began reaching out, not with breadcrumbs, but with genuine curiosity about who she was becoming. He was witnessing her transformation from the outside, and it triggered something primal, the fear of losing something valuable. But here's the beautiful part. By the time he started chasing, Maria had already outgrown the need for his validation. She had become the woman she was meant to be, not the woman who needed his approval to feel worthy. The strategy isn't about making him jealous. It's about becoming so aligned with your own value that his opinion becomes irrelevant. When you're genuinely thriving, his attention becomes a bonus, not a necessity. Stop asking what he's thinking. Start asking what you're becoming. Redirect all the energy you've spent decoding him into rebuilding you. Invest in your joy. Nurture your passions. Build a life that feels like home, even if no one else is in it yet. Because the woman who's at peace with herself is the woman no man can forget and no boy can handle. Your glow doesn't come from being chosen. It comes from choosing yourself again and again until your self-worth becomes louder than his silence. And once your energy shifts from seeking his validation to embodying your own worth, the final level of ignoring isn't just strategy, it's soul clarity.
4. Don't try to be misunderstood correctly. When a man doesn't understand your worth, the problem isn't your communication skills, it's his capacity for recognition. And no amount of explanation, clarification, or emotional education will change that. The urge to clarify, over-explain, seek closure, it's the enemy of feminine power. Every time you try to make him understand why he should treat you better, you're inadvertently teaching him that your standards are negotiable. You're showing him that his confusion about your value is something you'll work to resolve for him. But what happens when you stop trying to be understood? What happens when you let silence defend you and let confusion expose him? A friend I've known for years once rewrote the same text again and again, trying to explain her pain in just the right way. She wanted him to understand her perspective, to see how his actions affected her, to finally get it. She was trapped in the exhausting cycle of trying to be misunderstood correctly. I shared with her what I'd learned from my own experience. Instead of explaining why she deserved better, she could simply start accepting only better. Instead of teaching him how to value her, she could start valuing herself so clearly that his confusion became irrelevant. When he texted asking why she was being weird or distant, she didn't explain. When he complained that he didn't understand what he'd done wrong, she didn't educate him. When he demanded clarity about where they stood, she gave him the clarity of her actions, not her words. This level of ignoring is the most sophisticated because it requires complete emotional detachment from his understanding. You're not ignoring him to get a reaction. You're ignoring the entire dynamic of having to prove your worth to someone who should already see it. The psychological effect is magnetic. Men are drawn to women who don't need them to validate their reality. When you stop trying to convince him of your value and start operating from it, you become mysteriously powerful. He can't argue with your standards because you're not presenting them as arguments. You're presenting them as facts. Have you ever ignored someone with grace and seen them come back in confusion or obsession? Drop your story in the comments. Let's collect quiet power.
By now, you understand the power of ignoring with intention, not to punish, but to protect your peace. When you stop reacting to his inconsistency, refuse to reward his crumbs, rise in your own light, and let silence speak louder than explanations, something shifts. You stop chasing clarity and become the clarity. This is feminine clarity in action. You're not playing games or manipulating outcomes. You're simply operating from a place of such clear self-worth that his confusion about your value becomes his problem to solve, not yours to explain. The woman who masters these strategies doesn't just get the man to chase, she becomes the woman worth chasing. And sometimes that's when you realize you've outgrown the need for him to catch you. If you have any questions, reflections, or personal experiences you'd like to share, I warmly invite you to leave a comment below. I'd truly love to hear from you. And to keep walking this beautiful, powerful path of love and renewal after 60, explore the Women After 60 Relationships and Renewal playlist, a curated journey of insights, stories, and wisdom made especially for you. Before you go, make sure to subscribe for more insights on mastering your feminine power after 50, because I'll be sharing so much more on love, dating, and marriage in this beautifully complex chapter of life. And I'm Vernon. Thanks for watching my video.